I don't know what that is, but it's not the same as the rest.
L'exposition Autobiographie d'une selle Métis porte sur un objet, une selle de cheval, Métis, c'est-à-dire originaire du Canada du Nord, qui a été fabriquée par des personnes métisses au tout début du 19e siècle. La culture métisse, donc c'est vraiment un peuple autochtone reconnu au Canada. Cette culture est née en fait de couples mixtes entre des Européens et des femmes autochtones dans la région de la baie d'Hudson, dans le cadre du commerce de la fourrure. Les femmes européennes, elles, participent à la vie de la société de la colonie. Mais très vite, les hommes européens se rendent compte qu'ils ont besoin des populations autochtones sur place pour survivre, parce que c'est un environnement vraiment hostile, il fait très très froid et ils ne sont pas préparés à ça. Et dans ce cadre-là, va s'opérer des rapprochements entre Européens et populations autochtones et vont se faire des mariages mixtes. C'est de là que naît vraiment la communauté métisse au XIXe siècle.
And had kids, and then those kids kept marrying each other, which resulted in a really distinct and strong culture.
One of the challenges of being Indigenous now is that people think we either don't exist or that we exist as we were in the past.
And so these beads would have, like the seed beads would have all been Italian at this point, right? Or could they have been, like, did they start the ones in Bohemia yet?
I don't think so. I do a lot of visiting in museum collections. A lot of our material culture is elsewhere. It was collected and taken literally all over the world.
Wow!
And this one was particularly exciting because it's old. And it has excellent provenance, so we know where it's from. And we know part of the story, because the Swiss story and the Métis story overlap for a period of time. And the idea that this object has experienced that story is really fascinating. As far as I know, there are only 3 saddles from this time period that have survived.
Cette selle est constituée d'éléments en cuir, d'éléments en laine et d'autres éléments de décoration qui viennent par-dessus, notamment de la broderie de perles et de la broderie de piquant de porc-épic, qui sont des éléments décoratifs caractéristiques de la culture métisse.
We have put things together from many different sources and created something new and enduring. And so then what happens with the art forms is you see old Cree elements, Soto elements. We see European trade goods coming together in unique ways.
Cette selle, elle est exceptionnelle dans le sens où c'est un spécimen ancien, et ça, on peut le confirmer par rapport aux décorations qui sont géométriques et non florales sur l'objet, ainsi que la taille des perles. C'est une broderie perlée avec des perles très très fines. Et c'est intéressant aussi de pouvoir le partager avec les personnes métisses, originaires du Canada, puisque c'est des exemplaires qu'on ne trouve pas forcément sur place dans les musées au Canada.
Is really exciting because it's a piece that maybe a Métis person hasn't seen in many, many, many years. And to visit with it and learn from it feels really special and like visiting someone from back home.
One of the things that we see in the saddle, it's this circle that I've seen on so many other pieces. I also see it on very old Cree work. To me, the way the circle is made, it's like a moving circle. It's like the universe. So a lot of the geometric images represented people's way of imagining the world. But in other cases, it's the artist. So sometimes we never really know what it means. We're not in that artist's head or heart. There is the story of the maker, but also the saddle itself. It was used.
It was maybe made for a family member before it ended up here, and that someone was riding around using it on their horse.
So it may have been used here in Switzerland because it has additions where you can see metal stirrups. So this is hair, and is that wool?
This looks like wool.
This looks
That
like
looks like hair.
Cet objet est arrivé dans les collections en 1820, selon les informations que l'on a au livre d'inventaire, et d'autres archives trouvées aux archives cantonales vaudoises et à la bibliothèque de la bourgeoisie à Berne nous donnent le nom du collecteur probable, Walter von Hauser, qui l'aurait collecté dans le cadre de la colonisation de la rivière Rouge par des Suisses. Il nous manque vraiment des clés pour comprendre l'histoire complète de cette selle. Mais lui, dans sa lettre, il explique qu'il rapporte ces objets pour les partager avec les curieux de l'époque. Et quand on a vu les sources à disposition et la riche histoire de cet objet, le musée cantonal d'archéologie et d'histoire a inscrit un projet d'exposition pour mettre en valeur donc, cette selle. Et l'objectif, c'est de multiplier les points de vue sur cet objet. C'est aussi répondre à la Déclaration des droits des peuples autochtones qui date de 2007, qui met en avant le droit des peuples autochtones à l'autodétermination et à avoir accès à leur patrimoine. Le travail de conception de cette exposition s'est fait sur plusieurs mois et elle s'est organisée de manière un peu spéciale puisque les deux commissaires, Sherry Farrell-Rassett et Laura Pierce, vivent au Canada. On a beaucoup travaillé via vidéoconférence avec une petite caméra qu'on appelle une Dinolight et qui permet de montrer tous les détails de la selle.
You can see the sinew.
Is it cotton or...
It looks like it could be. But the ends are kind of a matte.
La selle Métis, avant cette exposition, a fait l'objet d'une étude poussée avec différentes personnes qui sont venues l'étudier. Antoinette Rast a fait des prélèvements sur les parties en laine et l'objectif de ces prélèvements, c'est de savoir s'il s'agit de laine de bovin ou d'ovin, puisqu'on sait que dans la région de la baie d'Hudson, il y a eu une initiative de filage de laine de bison dans les années 1818-1820.
Il faudra voir s'il faut encore quelques analyses de colorants par un laboratoire spécialisé. Il est possible qu'il y ait eu une exportation de tissus imprimés sur coton, parce qu'il y avait une très grande production en Suisse à cette époque, et avec un réseau, avec une exportation très probable aussi en Amérique.
Parce qu'en fait, il est possible que ce soit des Suisses qui soient partis avec du textile européen et du coup, il y a des échanges avec les populations autochtones. Et en tous les cas, si ce n'est pas suisse, ça serait forcément européen. Cette selle a probablement été rapportée de la colonie de la rivière Rouge par Walter von Hauser, un Suisse originaire de Nafel. C'est un Suisse qui avait été recruté pour constituer un groupement de personnes suisses pour partir peupler la colonie de la rivière Rouge pour le compte d'un Bernois, Rudolf May, qui lui-même est en contact avec des personnes de la baie d'Hudson.
The Red River settlement in what is now Manitoba, Canada, right in the middle of Canada, was actually an indigenous campsite for thousands and thousands of years. It is at the junction of the Red River and the Assiniboine River. So it was a very important travel intersection for indigenous peoples initially, and then for fur traders beginning in the 1780s. And the Earl of Selkirk, who was Scottish, decided in about 1800 that he wanted to help poor people in Europe. He eventually bought shares in the Hudson's Bay Company in order to make this happen. The Swiss settlers were recruited by Lord Selkirk to come to the Red River settlement in 1820. There were about 45 families, so there would have been about 200 people. One family that's Frederick Strawn. He was 62 years old. He came from Bern. He was a watchmaker. His spouse Henriette was 39. Character no good. Sons Frederick Louis, 12 years, Constant, 10 years, Henri, 5 years, Lucie, 7, Julie, 2. What the Swiss did not know when they were being recruited was that They were going to a settlement that was controlled by two fur trade companies that were basically at war with each other. And so when the Swiss arrived, for them, there were no houses, there was no food for the winter. In Manitoba, the winters routinely are 40 degrees Celsius below zero. Just record that it was a very difficult time. People almost starved to death. They got frostbite. They lost fingers and toes. The Swiss hung on. They were very tough. But in 1826, there was a major flood. People were up on the roofs of the cabins. And shortly after the flood, most of the Swiss settlers left Red River and went south to the United States. Most of the people there were Métis. The Métis were either French-speaking Catholics or English-speaking Protestant. The Métis lived in Red River seasonally. More and more settlers came in, mostly from Ontario. They were very racist, and they began discrediting Indigenous rights, including Métis rights. Some families gave up. They convinced their children that the reason they had dark hair and dark eyes was because they had Spanish ancestors. But other families retained their pride and their Métis identity. And finally, in 1982, Métis people were acknowledged as a distinct Indigenous people in the Canadian Constitution.
And then I take the single thread, and the other needle has a double thread.
This is the oldest technique. So we wanted to make the point that we are still very present and very strong, and the art is still very strong in the present now. There are a lot of us, like we were estimating maybe 1 million across the country.
My art is really informed by those old pieces, but I'm making it today for people today as a Métis beadwork artist. So the first thing we'll do is the center of the flower, so you can think about which colors?
And so I asked Jennine Krauchi, because she is a master artist, and the artist that she is mentoring right now, some pieces. That particular group are from very old families, and the likelihood that their ancestors were there at the moment this saddle was created and purchased or traded.
So here we have some art pieces that were made by contemporary Métis artists who are living today. And we made these art pieces to respond to the pad saddle, to show that these techniques used on the saddle are still being used today.
The Métis suffered a period from 1885 until almost 1982 when they were almost completely dispossessed. The art was absolutely crucial as a symbol of Métis identity and of pride in Métis identity for those who continued to say, no, we are Métis, we are distinct. They wore their beadwork. So the kinds of items that the contemporary artists made for this exhibition, an artistic response to the historic pad saddle and the grandmother who made her, but they're also very important as symbols of what kept the people together during a very hard time. The artwork kept them going.
So Brianna made a headstall because the horse would have had a complete outfit. This circular motif, this is Jennine Krauchi's. This is called saddlebag.
This wall pocket is a piece that I made thinking about the saddle and looking at that rosette that appears in the corner of the saddle and how that has transformed and grown into flowers in something that is like full of color.
Vi made these very playful pieces, and she is, and these are from the tabs. You see these tabs on pouches, you see them on saddles, but they're a recurring design element.